So anyways, welcome everybody to our monthly meeting. And so what we'll do today, we'll have, let me go over the agenda here, if I could get to it.
We're looking
There we
at
go.
silhouette, by the way, there.
Sorry?
We just see your silhouette because of the back lighting. You don't have any lighting on yourself, but that's okay. It's all
Okay,
about
well,
the slides.
you don't want to see me anyways, right? So, okay, so the agenda for today, so we'll have some people from BluWave AI do an update on the EV everywhere pilot, okay? And
Great, that's good.
Okay, then we'll have ChargeHub will be here. I just saw the gentleman come on. They're going to talk about an offer they have for us, but they're going to talk about something else that I'm trying to remember what the name of it is. We'll get there when we get there. Anyways, then we'll talk about winter tires. So Mitchell will talk about winter tires for EVs. After that, we'll briefly discuss the AGM. So in January, we had the AGM and we have some positions that are open on the board and some people that need to be reelected. Then I'm going to do a report for the Electric Mobility Conference. I was in Edmonton a couple weeks back to go to the ENC conference. And I'll do a quick report on that. And actually, there's a section that talks about e-buses that I'm going to go through in more detail. Then we'll do like usual, we'll do the news, okay? So, do you want to take it over?
Hi, everyone.
Do you want to,
Got this out.
yeah, come closer over here?
Okay, yeah, thanks for having us. I know that I met some of you guys before, a couple weeks ago, thanks to some folks at Hydro Iowa that we've been working with. Raymond, thanks for organizing all this.
You're welcome.
So I know that there's about, I think probably 18 people in total using our app right now. And, can I go next?
Next, okay, actually, what I'll do here also while you do that is I'm going to change something here to make it easier.
Sure, yeah.
Well, go ahead, just keep on talking and.
Yeah, so just to give everyone else a background though,
Okay, so
great,
these two buttons there.
thank you. A couple of years ago, we approached Hydro Iowa and we asked them, how many electric vehicles can there be in the grid before you guys start having problems, right? In particular at the distribution level. So neighborhoods of 50 to 200 houses. And they said, we don't know. So we went to University of Waterloo. We did a study. We got some of the topology of what Hydro Iowa calls local loops, but other utilities call them circuit spurs, right? So it's at the substation level, branching out to transformers, each transformer serves 20 houses and the whole loop itself is 50 to 200 houses, right? So we did a study of a couple of different loops. We simulated L2 EV charging. And it turns out that for some neighborhoods in Ottawa, 25% of houses with EVs is enough to cause issues in the grid, right? And so what this looks like is, well, I'll get to that in a second, actually. So where we came from is, we spent the last couple of years developing AI for the smart grid, right? So renewable energy predictions, electrical load predictions. We've got deployments in India, got deployments in Eastern Canada and Europe and the Middle East. So we said, okay, we spent the last 5-6 years deploying AI in the smart grid. How can we use our platform to help Hydro Iowa with this, we'll call it incoming problem, right? So then the ISO, they granted us $5 million to help figure this out. So kind of what I was describing is conveyed in a very simple way right here. But basically, you have a bunch of people, they come home after work, 6-7 p.m. They plug in their vehicles, and then you have this peak all of a sudden, right? Of all these L2 chargers coming online. And so what we want to do is, what we realized is, it really doesn't matter when your vehicle charges as long as it's fully charged before you leave the next day at 8 a.m., 6 a.m., whatever. And it's different for everybody, right? So if we can find a way to, offset charging, delay it, have it respond, in a holistic manner to demand response signals and other intelligent signals, we can help the utility defer these expensive upgrades, right? And so what this kind of looks like is illustrated here. So, we have this local loop here. All these nodes here are simulated points. But basically, when you overload transformers, they just get warmer. The oil gets warmer. The insulation breaks down. So instead of a catastrophic failure, what we actually tend to see is more of a a significant decrease in operating life, right? So the transformers themselves, rather than having 20-year life cycle, the lifespan is reduced to like 10, 15 years. So upgrading transformers, digging up all these lines, it's all really, really expensive. And so I've read that, the cost can be anywhere from $1,800 to $5,600 per electric vehicle. This is the cost borne to the distribution grid per EV, depending on where you are in North America. So how it works is we took our AI platform, the one that we've been doing the predictions on for the last 5-6 years, and we've been modifying it for simulating EV load and doing demand response and looking at EVs holistically and controlling them in an intelligent manner. And so the other challenge here is the integration with the EVs themselves, right? So early on, we looked at, okay, well, let's just control the chargers themselves, right? So we did a survey, we bought a bunch of EV chargers. For last year has been you've probably tried about 10 different chargers in the past 12 months or so, and only a handful of them work, right? So chargers, they all use something called OCPP, you guys probably heard about, Open Charger Protocol. There's no governing body or a ratification entity that certifies these chargers. So a lot of these chargers we found have partial compatibility or non-existent compatibility, even though they're payment, right? And if they do, oftentimes it's like hard-coded to point at a certain server. So we can't just communicate with these chargers, right? All the hoops you've been jumping through the last year, it's been very painful. So we just realized, it's not a way that we can really scale. On top of that, as you guys know, everyone has, there's sort of tens, hundreds, if not thousands of different EV charger hardware out there, right? And a lot of people are just going to use whatever the dealership gives you, whatever's cheap on Amazon. I think eventually we want to get to a point where we have a certified whitelist of EV chargers, but that's probably still another year or so away. So we found a partner. It's called Smart Car. It's in the US, and their bread and butter is basically insurance customers, right? So insurance companies, some car insurance companies, you install their app, it tracks your driving habits, and then it tells the insurance company if you're a good driver or not, and you get a discount. Some fleet companies also use it for like fleet management, right? But what they've been, so this company called Smart Car, they've built these partnerships with Tesla, BMW, Toyota, and so forth to communicate with these vehicles via the LTE connection, right? So it's through this that we're able to get odometer readings, EV state of charge, and tire pressure, right? Stuff like that. So we've been testing that link out, right? Yeah, I went back and yeah. And so, we're connecting to these vehicles. We're, seeing what telemetry we can get. One of the challenges we have right now is, how frequently can we pull these vehicles to collect state of charge, to turn charge on and off? But it's a trade-off, right? Because if you do this too much, it drains the SoC if your vehicle is not plugged in, right? Because it prevents the vehicle from falling into a sleep state. So, thanks to some of you guys, that's what we've been testing, right? So developing the app and testing the EV functionality. But the key features of the EVWare program is intelligent EV charging. So automatically adjusting EV charging based off of, the constraints in the distribution grid. We're predicting the load in the grid. We're predicting the load in individual neighborhoods at the transformer and substation level. And we're trying to shift the EV charging around so that we're not overloading those assets. Demand response, the ISO, their interest in this is that they want to, a lot of these system operators around North America, around the world, they're looking at demand response, right? Because they know that EVs are coming, but also, in terms of like smart thermostats, smart appliances, they want to be able to control these and then offset the strain on the grid. So being able to participate in demand response and try these out is a key feature of this program. We have the user-facing smartphone app, so some of you guys have tried it. I know it's buggy right now. It's 0.5. We just wanted to run something out to you guys. Probably out before Christmas, right? But the next version, 0.7, it's coming out, I think, next week or so. But that one's going to have a bit more functionality. But basically, right now, what you're able to see in the app is what we call Blue Score. So it's a measure of our grid sentiment, right? So looking at the renewables generation right now, looking at the level of peak right now, looking at the weather, looking at what we forecast the load to be, it gives a number so you can kind of figure out, is this a good time to charge? What we want to do is to make it really easy to distill all this information, all these decisions into one number that the customer can then use to say, okay, you know what, it's a good time to charge. A summer afternoon, you know, it's probably not the best time to charge just because that's when all the AC is running and stuff like that. However, you know, times like this right now, it's probably a decent time to charge, right? It's somewhat windy outside. I don't know.
So one thing I'd say is that I think most of us don't really care what the number is. We just want to not have to worry about when the car gets charged.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that we test out with SmartCar, right? But also with the smartphone app, what we will have in the next release is the ability to set your charging schedule, right? So, you know, some families, they need their car at 6 a.m. Some families need it at, you know, 10 a.m. Other families, you know, the split between, you know, weekdays and weekends is a bit different for every family. So that's what we want to make. We want a solution that works for everybody, right? So the only way to be equitable is to be able to take in all of these inputs from everybody. And then utility automation as well. So there's a couple of different use cases that we've been trying out in a simulation environment. So, you know, our platform is able to automatically detect when peaks are going to be in the distribution grid, and then we can suggest that, you know, let's slow down charging for the next half hour, slow down charging for the next hour. Hydro Ottawa themselves, they can, you know, they have a bunch of other insights from their systems. They're going to be able to target certain neighborhoods and curtail charging temporarily as well. And of course, ISO, from a province-wide perspective, they're going to be able to do the same functionality across like large geographic areas. So of course, there's, you know, what's in it for you guys is Hydro Ottawa plans to develop an incentive program here, right? We have a rewards program, which I'll talk about briefly. And then hopefully what this turns out is, you know, lower amounts of money being spent on upgrades and hopefully lower charges on your bill. So in general, this is kind of how our solution works. So up top here, you see this is our smart grid optimization platform. We have our databases, our AI predictors, our optimizers, right? We have our demand response platform that we've been working on this year as well. And then we have on the bottom right here, we have the smart car API. So this is what is talking to your car directly via the LT modem. And we also have an OCPP controller that works with a limited number of EV chargers as well. And so what we're doing is we're predicting electrical load, we're predicting the peak demand, we're predicting solar and wind in the province, and then we're incorporating demand response. And so another element of this is we're procuring several battery energy storage systems from BC, and they're going to be installed in strategic places in and around Ottawa. And so we're also, in addition to curtailing and controlling EV charging, we're going to be strategically injecting power from the batteries into the distribution grid. So hopefully as another means to alleviate those constraints, right? That's a whole other challenge. There's a lot of regulatory things, a lot of safety things, right? If you're installing big batteries, you want to make sure that there's no risk of thermal runaway. A lot of cybersecurity concerns, right? So having third parties that is not Hydro Ottawa operating these distribution grid assets is hugely, it's novel. It's one of the reasons that ISO is so interested in helping us, is because they want to know what these challenges are, right? Hydro Ottawa themselves, they have all these obligations with all the other distribution operators that they're connected to. And so, you know, we need to figure out what those challenges are. What are the boxes that we need to check to be able to do this, right? So we're kind of trailblazing here.
So you're just working with Hydro Ottawa, you're not touching Hydro One or any of those people yet?
At the moment, yeah, so exactly. We're just doing this test phase with EVCO members and then Hydro Ottawa customers, and then hopefully next year we can start rolling it out to other utilities in Ontario.
Any word on whether 0.7 will support Hyundai?
Yeah, so we can talk about that. Yeah. Let's see, where do I start?
And Kia.
And Kia, yeah.
Hyundai, yeah.
Do you wanna speak a bit about that?
I don't know, because it's outside of our control, but this is actually a little bit, so we're testing actually an alternative to smart car, and I just got Hyundai activated today, so I would be very curious to see if you guys can get in.
Okay,
But we need to talk offline about this.
that's fair.
But I'm obviously very much interested to see
Let's follow up after the meeting.
who can actually connect.
Yeah,
Yeah, our goal is to get as many popular brands.
Of course.
yeah,
Yes, but we take this offline.
Yeah, no, that's great.
yeah. When we started this, we thought the challenging part of this would be like the powerful analysis, analyzing what's in the grid. That turns out to be the easy part. The hard part is there's 40
cars.
yeah, like 40 plus EVs. All these manufacturers have their own nuances. A lot of them are actually kind of moving away from the model of kind of like standardized control, right? So they want everybody on their platform, right? So Tesla, you guys know, has the app. All the manufacturers, they're looking to find new revenue streams, right? Because as you guys know, the EVs, they're not needing to be serviced as often, right? So the goalposts are always moving, fortunately. Yeah, so I mean, I just wanted to chat today, put a face to the name, and thanks for everyone who's been helping out. We haven't really, right now we're just testing the integration, the account enrollment, being able to collect telemetry from your car, seeing state of charge, we can control it, how often we pull the car, stuff like that. The real demand response stuff is going to happen in Q1 of next year. So right now we're working with HydroWire. There's still some integration efforts to do. There's still some testing, still some simulation work left to do. And as Bud said, we're evaluating alternatives to smart car as well. So smart cars are very North American focused, right? But they're the other technology provider you found. It's a lot of European brands, Hyundai.
We were founded in Norway. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I know like Hyundai has a project, well, actually, it's a Dutch company that's a car share company, and they have a project with I-95, but they had to talk to Hyundai corporate, so there's some weirdness there for sure.
Yeah.
So maybe we can, maybe there are some questions from the EVCO members, so.
Absolutely, yeah.
What kind of expectations? I mean, you might be frustrated because you didn't get your car enrolled or stuff like this. So what should we tell you? So reach out to us when you have problems. We had our session a couple of weeks ago over the weekend to figure out a problem. And we're very eager to help you out. And if it's outside of our control, then we engage with SmartCar, with the other companies. And we actually put them on the spot and say, you guys, you said you support it. Why is it not working? We have just one case right now, right, with the Kia.
Yeah, well, the BMW as well. There's been some issues, yeah.
So it's all learning for us as well, but we invited you to participate. We don't want anybody to be frustrated or confused, right? And that's why we're here.
No, but it's a beta program, like
It's an alpha.
It's an alpha program, so like, it's not like we're expecting everything to work perfectly. Yeah, like, I get it.
Yeah, so we had discussions about the grid and the fact that charging have impact on the grid and all that. So I think most of us are really aware of the issues, right? And wanting to do anything we can to help with that, right? So I think that those who are on the pilot right now, they're there because they want to help you, right?
Yeah.
They want to get there because we know that if at some point, 5 years from now, everybody plugs in their car when they get home and they start charging and that afternoon peak gets bigger, we're gonna have a problem, right?
Absolutely.
So,
Does anybody online have any questions?
Yeah, I was wondering how the new ULO rates are changing the prediction of the peaks, and does that affect your the problem statement? Because your problem statement was as soon as people get home, they plug in. Well, what if they don't plug in until 11 p.m.? Are you still seeing a spike at 11 o'clock, or are you going to, address that differently?
Yeah, so we're still collecting data right now, but I think the problem statement that we had still applies, right? Like if everyone goes home and plugs in their car, but sets a timer until 11 p.m., 1 a.m., you're still going to get another peak at that time, right?
Yeah.
And if everyone across the province is doing something like that, it's going to cause a peak that is at a time in which there might not be sufficient generation, right? So suddenly the ISO is having to spin up peaker generation.
Yeah.
We have more CO2 emissions and stuff like that, right? So if we can delay it, if we can spread it out, anything like that would help.
Yeah, so what my standard recommendation to anybody that asks is to set the car so it's ready when I leave in the morning, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That way it starts at more or less a random time. It actually ends at more or less a random time because the car can't calculate 100% accurately when it does, how much time it needs to charge. Right?
Absolutely, yeah. And the app has opt-out functionality as well, right? You have a road trip that you're planning to go on, you've got Thanksgiving dinner or something like
Yeah,
that.
you need the big red button.
Absolutely.
Everything I need to charge them, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Have you
What-
looked at the charge rate? I mean, my charger defaults right now to 7.5 kilowatt, but reality is, you know, with the amount of driving I'm doing, if I set it to, you know, 1500 watt or 2002 kilowatt, it would still be finished by morning. It would just be at a slower rate and spread it out a bit more. So are you looking at adjusting charge rates as well as charge times?
We can't. Like we can only turn on and off charging on the car, but we cannot. I haven't seen any way to control the amps from within the car. I mean, in the charger, we can.
So the
with my
car will respond to
adjust
the,
the speed.
So,
So if you have access to the app.
Yes, but not the like the smart cars.
Okay.
They can really just do.
oh, okay, so because it's going through smart card. Okay.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we cannot really work with every vendor and figure out their specifics, right? So
Yeah.
we rely on the aggregators like Smart Card and Anode, which is a Norwegian company, but you cannot control the amps, the power.
Having said that, one of the benefits of controlling the EV chargers directly is that we do get charge rate
Oh, yeah.
control. So in our deployments, you know, we're on the commercial industrial side, we're also looking at bringing the solution, right? So we're working with like municipal bus companies that want to bring EV buses. If we can talk to the chargers, and we can control the charge rate. So
Much better.
having said that, though, you know, looking at 200 houses in a neighborhood, you know, I think we can kind of bring the same solution just by turning on and off certain cars rather than altering the rates. Whereas in a depot where it's fewer number of vehicles, fine tuning the rate is a bit more
Yeah,
impactful.
so if you have more numbers, it's just the law of big numbers.
Exactly, yeah.
Easier for you guys, yeah.
We-
In my case, the car, I've got the car set to charge slower. And not.
I think there's someone who wants to join.
Yeah, so Craig there is letting people in. So-
You know, I know you said that most chargers, that offer OCTP don't really support it, which I know is true, because I have a Grizzly Smart. And it doesn't actually follow OCTP protocol, and I've been bugging them for 2 years to fix it. But anyway, I feel like a good path for you guys would be if you got a charger partner or, you know, someone to make a charger you can actually count on, and then you could sell that, or Hydro Ottawa can subsidize it to incentivize people to join the program.
Yeah.
Because if you keep going down the car side control path, you'll forever have to maintain, you know, dozens of different charge integrations, and that's just seems way more complicated.
Yeah, that's another. So.
That's a good idea, actually.
So-
Grizzly,
So actually,
we managed to get one hooked up, so.
really,
It's OCPP, yeah.
so we have contacts at EVCO also, if you want to work with them. Their chargers they're preset to talk to a certain server, but you can go and change that. That's quite easy to do.
I think we have one on our hands, right?
Which one? EV duty, and yes, we do. We have EVC30 or something. I tested it, and the OCPP was, I don't know if it's an older version, outdated version, but it wasn't good enough for us.
Let's take it offline and I have contacts.
I have more to say about Grizzly in the roundtable.
So Mitchell had a comment? Or question, Mitchell? I think it was Mitchell,
I had a question or comment.
sure.
I did not actually have a question or comment. I don't know who.
Oh, I thought I heard so, I thought.
Somebody
I
else
heard-
has raised their hand, so thank you for whoever raised their hand to take over this awkward conversation.
Okay, so Alan, do you wanna?
Yeah, the other
go ahead?
question I have you looked at integrating with any other equipment like heat pumps? I mean, there's a big push on heat pumps right now, and be sure good to have integration with this kind of smart loading with heat pumps.
Yeah, we get that a lot. It's one of the things that Hydro Ottawa is really looking into as well. I think maybe next calendar year we'll start doing that testing.
The way it works is actually, I just tried mine actually the other day. You hook into the smart thermostat.
Mhm.
And right now we can support Honeywell and Ecobee. And if they are controlling your heat pump, then we can actually control the heat pump.
So if you're looking for more guinea pigs for that next year, come back to us, we'll
Okay.
find, there's a lot of us who
A
had.
lot of us have some snap.
So, you know,
Yeah, but I think that the only thing I've seen is the smart thermostats, so you actually go through them, like directly to your heat pump.
That makes sense.
My heat pump didn't come with a smart thermostat. It was-
So I got an Ecobee on my,
maybe it's something, I don't have one, I have one, but I can't connect it. to
Yeah, no,
the
it's a Mitsubishi proprietary.
yeah.
I have more questions about that for later.
Okay,
The round table. So we do have the round table at the end of the meeting.
Okay, cool.
So anything else about EV Everywhere and BluWave AI? Any other questions, comments? No?
Your hand down.
A final comment, I think it's pretty cool that we're all sitting in Ottawa and doing this. Right, Fluids in Ottawa, EVCO in Ottawa, Hydro Ottawa. It's just a really nice to see that this is all happening here, right? And then we're not getting some companies from California, helping us out. So yeah, I think.
Yeah, we have learned a lot from, we've been talking to a lot of utilities and tech providers in the US who have done demand response. They've learned a lot of painful lessons, and we're trying to adopt as much of that as possible. And hopefully this rollout's pretty smooth for you guys, right?
Yes. So there's a university professor from somewhere out east. I can't remember which university. He did a survey of EV owners, and some of us participated. He actually remembered my response for some reason. Maybe I don't know if that's good or bad, but anyways, he presented at the EMC conference, and I think he presented from the point of view of someone who's either not an EV owner or newbie to EV ownership. Right, so I think there's some value in talking to people who've been doing this for a while, right? So like I said earlier, the only thing I care, make sure it's charged in the morning. And actually, if the utility wants it, I'd be happy to have 50% charge. But normally I'd get 75%, let's say, right? But I'd be okay once in a while that my car doesn't
Yeah,
get
you
charged, right?
could maybe add thresholds where people are like, between this and this, I'd be acceptable for the morning,
We have that at 0.7.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. all right.
Another thing that we don't have yet, but will be enabled in the back end is, if your vehicle's at home, you're gonna participate in demand response and stuff, but if you're in a rush, you're at Costco, you wanna charge, you're gonna automatically opt out.
Mhm.
That's the reason why we will in the future ask for the location. So I mean, that's opt-in, opt-out, of course, because of the option, but
Are you getting the location through your app or through the manufacturer?
they're smart card.
Through a smart card, okay. So
So,
it's already all there, right? So
yeah,
if they're able to access it, right?
Yeah. So.
Cool.
Sorry, why is the location relevant? Like, aren't you always charging at home or controlling the home
Well,
charge?
because you might be out in the world doing stuff.
because we're controlling the charging through the EV. So if you're at Costco.
Oh, right.
Yeah, right, exactly. We don't want to be curtailing while you're paying per hour.
Yeah. That's.
If you're on a trip, charging at a hotel or something, they don't want to be interfering with.
Right, so it automatically opt out
So, so
based on
we'll
location.
make that all optional, right?
Okay.
If you want to provide your location, we'll do that in the back end. Otherwise, if you don't want to provide your location, we can just do it through the app manually, so.
Gotcha. So I don't know if you know this, but the Teslas, there's a charging profile per location.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, which is really useful, So most of the places, if you're not home, you want to be charging right away, right? But when you're home, you probably want to be charging on a schedule of some sort, right?
Does the Tesla well connector have any API control? I mean, I'm pretty sure it's not OCPP, but does it have any kind of other integration?
I don't know.
It would be great if Tesla adopted OCPP and pushed it, because that would just make everything easy for everybody.
Well, actually, if they adopted a clean implementation.
Yeah.
That would set
Like
the
actually
standard.
implementation of it.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah, that would be really good.
Yeah, they came out a few weeks ago with enabling access to the API, so we haven't really looked too much into it, but one thing to explore.
And they're actually quite reasonably priced, high quality charging equipment, right? So there's some people who are buying them even though they don't have a Tesla.
So that's the thing, they make some of the best EVCs. And on top of that, right now, it's the only EVC you can buy that has an X connector. And for people who don't want to have to deal with that person in the future, that's really
one.
Cool, well, thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
So the next presenter is Simon. He's been waiting patiently because I told him he'd be on soon, but so Simon, are you there? Still there?
Yeah, he's-
Yes, I'm there.
Okay.
Thanks.
So do you want to go ahead and share the screen?
Yeah, not yet. First, I'll just introduce myself and give you some context about my presence. And first of all, thank you for inviting me, Raymond, and the EVCO members. It's good to be with you tonight. So I met with Raymond at the Electric Mobility Conference, and I thought there would be a nice opportunity for your members to benefit from free charging credits that they can get through the ChargeHub app. So that's what I would like to introduce to you tonight. We're running a campaign for now, so we would like you to benefit from this. And I also told Raymond that I wanted to get the support from your association regarding an EV roaming campaign that we just launched at the Electric Mobility Conference. So we have other EV associations that are partners, and I'd like to see if that is of interest to you. So these are really the two different topics I wanted to discuss with you tonight. All right?
Yep. Cool.
Good. So let's start with free charging credits, because I'm sure that got your attention, and everybody's happy to get a free lunch or earn free credits. So let me dive into this. So I'll tell you more about ChargeHub, and you probably will understand why we're doing this. So first of all, ChargeHub, maybe I've heard of this. We're a Canadian company. We're one of the most popular public EV charging application in the country. We also have operation in the US, so I would say we're one of the leading public charging aggregator app. And we have more than 1 million annual user through our app, so we collect a lot of information regarding any stations in North America. So you can access any stations in North America through our app, get information that is crowdsourced through our EV community. You can also get live status on most of the stations across North America. And you can also use our app to pay with a single account on more than 80,000 charging stations in North America. So that's the ChargeHub app. And our mission is to support EV adoption, obviously. That's why we've been in this business for more than 10 years. And we want to increase, yes?
Sorry, just a comment. So one thing I don't think you mentioned, you guys are not owned by a charging network, right? But you do support different charging networks, right? Do you want to mention a few of them that you support?
Yes, of course. Today, I mean, ChargeHub is more than an app. We also build the backend solution that enables EV roaming at scale. And that means that through our solution, you can have lots of CPOs and apps that are compatible. So I mentioned just a few, but so by using ChargeHub or our partners application, you can access networks such as Electric Circuit, eCharge in New Brunswick, ChargePoint. We also have Newfoundland Hydro, Shell Recharge, and many more. They're all available from our website, so I can guide you through to this later. So that's one of the features we've developed, and today it's part of our mission. Yes.
So Simon, the reason I bring it up, and I want to bring it up explicitly, is because we have a lot of people who complain that they have to have, an account for every friggin' network out there, right? So you guys solved the solution you solved that to some point, right? But you'll talk about that more in the next part, right?
Yes, you're absolutely right, Raymond. That's our mission, and we have a lot of traction. We're going to add the IV charging networks as well this year, BC Hydro and many more. So this is absolutely part of our mission. But I'll talk about this in the other part of my presentation, if I may, Raymond, just to make sure that I can cover on the first topic, which is free charging credit, as I said, for your members. All right. Good. So basically, it's a very simple campaign that we are launching. We're supported by NRCan, because they also believe that we have to improve charging experience for Canadians. So since we are an important app and we give access to all charging stations across the country, what we've decided to do to support a better charging experience is to increase the number of pictures on charging sites. So today, as EV owners or potential EV owners, you know how important it is to plan your charging. You want to find the best sites for different reasons. So before heading there, people tend to check, you know, some information, and pictures of sites is important. It's something that is very appreciated by the EV community. So we offer your members and whoever wants to participate in our campaign to get free charging credits in the ChargeHub app if you add pictures of eligible sites. And what we mean by eligible sites is that there should not be any pictures at the site. So it's very easy to see from our app if there is a picture or not from the charging sites. So that's the first criteria. And second criteria, we want pictures that present the surrounding of the sites. We don't want to see a picture of a charger, you know, a zoomed in picture. That's no value for EV drivers. So that's our two very simple criteria. And what we give in exchange is that for every eligible picture sites that are added in our app, we provide a $5 charging credit for every level 3 pictures that are added, eligible picture, I mean, and $1 for L2 charging sites. You can add more than one pictures, but we ask for at least one picture. So that's been quite successful so far. We've conducted this campaign in Quebec with AVEC, and we've given away above $1,000 in charging credits. So we hope that this is something that could be of interest to your members. It's fairly easy, you know, and you know, it's really voluntary to participate in this, but we've seen some very excited members in Quebec who have also like participated in this and earned like hundreds of dollars in charging credits. So basically there's no limitation, you know, you can take pictures of any available sites in Canada. So for now, it's only available in Canada. So I can share with, yes.
So just a couple of things. So
Yes.
At some point, maybe what we should do is have a list of where you would like better pictures to, because I looked at some of the pictures in here. Actually, most charging stations, there's no picture at all, right? And like Simon said, he wants a picture that shows where the thing is on the site so you could find it, right? It's one of the other complaints you get from people is the chargers are hard to find, right? So but the other thing is, at some point, if you could have a list of places where you would like better pictures, you might be able to incentivize people to go and give you better pictures, right?
Yeah, we can do that, but honestly, as you say, it's fairly simple in the app to see that or on our website. But this is something we can do. It's just that it changes like literally every day. So when we start doing this, you know, we have to be updated quickly. So we ask people to go into the app as much as possible because it's updated live. But I give you some example here of the kind of pictures we're looking for. That's a good example. You see from this big Petro-Canada sign that the charger is probably nearby at this site, you know. Same thing here, you know, you have the surrounding, so that's considered eligible. That's interesting, you know, people adding 2 pictures, because in parking lots like this, sometimes it's difficult to find the charger. So that's a great addition from a member. In underground parkings as well, you know, having the number 2 to locate the level of the charging site location. And we also have like non-eligible pictures like this, you know. Charger on a wall means nothing. It's not useful. this kind of picture as well. It's too closed up. We don't see like where it is located, and so on. So that's something we can share with you. We will actually release a new web page for this campaign that you can share with your members, and all the details for like participating in the contest will be there. So that's as simple as that. Yes. Questions?
Any questions? So you won't get rich with this thing, right? But it's a bit of an incentive. I think we all want people to be able to find chargers easier.
Sounds like I'm making lots of road trips.
Yeah. Just an excuse for a road trip. Yeah.
Exactly. There's no limit. I mean, you can go anywhere you want as long as you put pictures from Canada.
Perfect.
All right. Okay,
Yep.
so that's topic one. So Raymond, I'm going to follow up with you with relevant information you can share with your members, and it will be up to you guys to participate if you want. All right.
Oh,
there's a question. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question / suggestion. I'm sure you guys looked into this before, but I know with like there used to be a service called Cardigo when I lived in Alberta. It was like just rental vehicles, right? And you could hit a button on the app and it would flash the lights on the car. But also, like, you know, those e-scooters, you can make them buzz if you're trying to find them. Have you guys considered something like that for the Cardigos?
I'm sorry, I can't hear very well the question.
So there's some flow chargers that actually in the flow application, you could say flash the light and you see where the charger is. You see which one, right? So are you guys considering doing something like that?
Well, that's a good recommendation for now. Because we have so many networks that are connected to our app, so I'm not sure how we can do this, but I'll bring it back as a recommendation. I think it's very interesting. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So next, Agora.
Yes. Next topic I wanted to share with you is a campaign that we launched at the okay, I'm just going to share my screen here at the Electric Mobility Conference about EV roaming, and it's somehow related to the funding we receive from NRCan as well. It is supported by NRCan. So basically, this campaign is about promoting EV roaming and educating Canadians about the fact that they can use a single account to charge on multiple networks. And we're not talking about our app here. We're really doing this as an industry initiative. So it can be other apps, you know, it can be different modes of payment, RFID card, the car dashboard, or an application, and so on. So it's a campaign that we've just launched, and we want this to be known by Canadian, and we want to create awareness about EV roaming, because today we realize, and not only us, that it's not something that is well known by prospective EV drivers, even EV drivers and commercial fleets that are getting into that space. So we've developed content, you know, from this website called agoracharge.com. We have a nice video explaining what is EV roaming and why it matters to EV adoption. We give the state of EV roaming that's going to be updated on a monthly basis. You can, you know, stay in touch, and we have lots of frequently asked questions. We've also developed a tool to find compatible networks, and that will answer your question from earlier, Raymond. Sorry, I was at the wrong place. So that's an important contribution to the industry. So this tool enables you to see the most important app, let's say, and networks, and check their compatibility. So you asked me for ChargeHub. So here's the list of compatible charging networks or app with ChargeHub. And you can do that with any other apps that have more than 100 network stations in North America. So that's it. And I'm just going to show you like who is supporting this campaign today, and we've managed to get quite a lot of partners for this. and it's still growing. We confirmed Shell Recharge, which is not featured there because I'm waiting for their logo, but you can see like we have very important partners that are part of this. So the founding partners were us with Electric Circuit and BC Hydro, and I can show you a couple of more industry partners that are part of this initiative because they believe EV roaming is important and will keep growing. So we have OEMs, CPOs, utilities, EV associations such as EV Society, AVEC. We have an EV association from Atlantic Canada. So the more the better. You know, we just launched this, and it's as easy as having your logo as a supporting organization, and you can tap into the content we have developed to educate your members and help us spread the word about like EV roaming and how it works, and because we believe it's an important pillar for EV adoption. So that's basically the essence of this. So I'll let you guys discuss this opportunity if you want to be part of this, and we're going to give visibility. Yeah.
So I have confirmed already, we do want to be part of it now. I forgot my train of thought here. Okay, so most people have an EV today. There are people who, you know, they're the early adopters, so they probably know a lot about the cars and this kind of stuff. But as you know, we start having, you know,
More of the great.
normal people, not nerds like us, but normal people buying EVs, they will, you know, they won't know much about this, right? So they'll need the help of things like this to make it easier for them to charge. I mean, you probably see it all the time, or, you know, on Facebook and other social media, you have people like, I just got a car and, you know, I'm at a charger and I don't know how this thing works and all that, right? So it's important for us to help with that.
Adam has a question. Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, I took a road trip down to Southwest Ontario, and honestly, it was the IV chargers that were the biggest pain because we were having to deal with, oh no, that's not in that app. You have to go into the IV app to see what the status is. So if you guys can get IV on board, even just for like plug status, that would be a huge deal. At least to me.
It's going to happen. So we've been working hard for this. I'll be honest with you. There are things that are out of our control, but you've seen IV is a partner of this. They believe in EV roaming. I don't want to talk on their behalf. It was more of a challenge for several reasons, but they're committed. It's a matter of months before they become interoperable with some of the other important networks or apps.
That's good to hear. That's kind of funny that they're committed to EV roaming, because you know the note that's in PlugShare says, oh hey, please check our new app for plug status, right? They very obviously chose to not enable PlugShare anymore.
They released a completely separate app instead of just updating their app, like.
Probably
they realized they do that. I guess, yeah, the developer would have signed their in the EVK anyway.
There could be a whole host of reasons, right? People do stupid stuff sometimes, right? So.
I mean, it is the government software.
And I also just say that reliability is one of the things that I think, you know, I've had very poor experience of reliability, and I think that is one of the things that you have to really stress to all your members is they got to buy good hardware, because, you know.
Yeah, but they're not participating necessarily at that level with them, right? But I think we all understand that that's a problem. Is there a way on ChargeHub to see if the site is a reliable charging site? Is there a rating?
We're getting there actually, and that's a very important topic to us, and we want to have our contribution here. If maybe you noticed that, Raymond, at the EMC conference, but we are going to release statistics on EV charging reliabilities in Canada and the US. So we gather comments from our EV community every day, and we analyze more than 10,000 comments over the past 6 months in our app. and we came up with some very interesting facts about like EV reliability, EV charging reliability. So we want to push this on a regular basis to really help the industry get its act together and improve the reliability of charging. So that's just the beginning. There are many things we might think of. I can disclose our secrets on this, but we have a lot of information on this, and we want to use this in a way that will, pull the industry upward. So yes,
and as part of reliability, you also have not just like it's not black and white. Is it working? Is it not working? Is it working well? Because I mean, I think all of us have been in a charger that is a 150 kilowatt charger and getting 32 kilowatts. You're like, yes, it's working, but that's not working well.
Yeah, that's a more complicated thing, though. There are some cases where it's technical limitations that cause that, right? Or the battery's cold.
That's just the reality of BZ4X ownership.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right, and we have 4 categories of charging experience. One being everything went well, the one below like never worked, and in between we have 2 categories. I succeeded, but it didn't work as smoothly as I wanted, and the other one is like it worked, but it was extremely painful or not very optimal, let's say. So yes, we have these categories in terms of comments analysis.
Yeah. And the goal is this has got to be easy enough that anybody, your grandmother could do this without a problem, right? So that's the ultimate goal.
Oh, once you all have access to the magical Tesla network, I'm sure that all the problems will be there.
No, but it's going to help for some stuff. But yeah, so it's we only have in Ontario right now. I was looking at the numbers today for some other purpose, and our fleet in Ontario is only somewhere around 2% electric at the moment, right? So this is the time to get this working, and this is the time to make sure that people after us get a better experience, right?
So I have a question.
Absolutely.
Let's see. So as a Tesla owner, I enjoyed the benefits of free supercharging, so I never have to actually do anything to charge on the road. But you also have a Chevy Bolt, and you have about 5 cards in there: Circuit Electric, Flow, IV, Charge Point, you name it. And each of these cards has a credit on it because they have the wallet concept, right? So you always have to add funds. You have to make sure that you have enough funds before you actually approach a charger. So I just downloaded your app here, and maybe you can explain to me why can't you just have a payment method registered like Ivy does, and you just show up and then you just make a transaction to the credit card. So my wife just was on the road trip with the Chevy Bolt, and I didn't have to worry about Ivy. We were just signed up, and they would just kind of take the charge my credit card for what I paid. So
but you have to use the ID card though.
The ID card or the app, right? But for me, what's really
the e-purse thing's kind of.
The question is why do you and all the other kind of apps, why do they use a wallet approach where you have to add funds and only have to have the sufficient funds you can use it for charging? Yeah. But if I only have $10 in there and I'm at a charger and I need to charge more, I have to actually go in there and add more money. So what is the rationale behind that? Are you kind of shy of storing payment information in your system, or do you don't want to get involved in that? It's fun. I find it's kind of a intimidating for me. It puts me off.
Yeah, it looks
$50 in credits now. It's distributed across 10 cards. Yeah. Or 5 cards, and I'm not sure if I can ever use them.
But yeah, well, that's exactly the problem we're trying to solve with the single wallet approach to connect on multiple networks. Today, you can use our app to charge on more than 80,000 chargers in North America, and this is going to grow because we're adding networks every month, and this is our goal, to have like the maximum compatibility in the market. So ultimately, we hope that people will have the opportunity to use an account that gives them access to a lot of networks. but it takes time. It's not as simple as that, and it's not in our full control, you know, because we have to get agreements with these networks, and it doesn't happen like this. You know, there's technical integration as well, and so on. So, but we're working toward that goal. That's the first thing I can tell you, and it's not only benefiting us because the backend solution I mentioned earlier, our EV roaming solution, is a way for networks and application to have a single technical, commercial, and legal and financial reconciliation through an integration. So we have an hub approach. So whoever connects to our hub can potentially connect to any other apps or networks. So this is our contribution to the market. It's not very visible from a consumer perspective, but that's a huge scalability capability we're bringing to the market, and you will only see this grow as year passes.
Okay, so let's say I have a ChargeHub account and I want to go charge at IV. How does the payment work?
Sorry?
The payment work.
Are there roaming fees?
Yeah, well, today it's not compatible. It's going to be at some point.
No, but like
Yeah,
in
yeah.
the future when it is.
Yeah, when it is compatible, how's the payment going to work?
Yeah. Okay. So that means, let's say, and I don't know like what IV will want, but let's say there's only like compatibility between us and IV. So you can use either the IV RFID card or IV application or ChargeHub application. Any of this will be compatible. So if you charge on IV using your IV app or your RFID IV card, it's going to be like the transaction is going to be processed by IV. So,
but let's say I just want one account and that account is ChargeHub and I don't have an account with Citric or all the others, right? How does the payment process?
So yes, you will be able to use the ChargeHub application to activate and pay directly with your account. So you're going to be charged the normal rate of IV for charging, and the hub approach that I explained to you earlier, there is a flex fee that is charged into the transaction. So we call this a convenient fee, let's say, and this is a 75 cents charge on an L2 transaction, whatever the time or the amount of energy taken, and $1.25 on an L3 transaction.
Right, but does it have to use the e-purse that is part of the ChargeHub app, or will you just build a credit card, whatever the money ends up being, whatever the cost ends up being? Like, do we have to load the ChargeHub app with money, or can we just use it like it's an account and it just bills us later?
No, it's not like a credit card. It's you really have to add your credit card information in the account and add funds, you know. So
But why? Right now, I'm very hesitant to sign up with ChargeHub because I already have 5 cards and I have credits on them.
Yeah, and I'm gonna add to that, the $1.25 fee, and it makes it you even more hesitant.
Yeah, honestly, the $1.25 makes it completely not worth it.
I mean, let's say you're traveling to the US, right? You're coming up to a network that you don't have an account for. Do you really want to?
Well, no, but
in the future, it's just having credit card readers on the charger.
Well, that's it, right?
That's what it's gonna be. It's gonna be like gas stations.
Well,
It's not here to stay. Consumers don't like it. I mean, there will be apps and you'll get maybe a discount if you use the app. It'll be like having a Petro-Canada card or something like that, like a loyalty program. And then each charging company is going to want to have their own app because they're wanting to put in your data.
If we're talking about reducing friction points for EV drivers, one of the friction points is having to load money onto an account to spend it later, rather than just having that account, hit my credit card with whatever I owe, right? Like when I buy stuff on iTunes or Apple Music or whatever, like I don't load Apple money first and give them $50 and then I can buy music. They just bill me whatever it costs for whatever I bought, right? Exactly. And that reduces friction. And so having this model that a lot of the charging companies have, where you have to load $20 and then you can charge, and I only have $6.95 left and I need $10 worth of charging, and now I've got to go in and reload the money and add another 15, right? It's a pain in the butt and it's a friction point that everyone hates.
Yes.
So is there a way of getting rid of that so that you can just bill our credit
But
card?
for
and just
now-
have
for
credit card
now-
on file and we just bill it?
Yeah. Well, that's, I mean, in an ideal world, I would say it would be like this. For now, I mean, I don't see this happening tomorrow. One of the reason why, and you talk about credit card readers, I mean, that's a partial solution, you know, because there's no way that charging networks are going to put credit cards reader everywhere on every single charger, especially not the
Tesla's
level
doing
2
all of
chargers.
these
Yeah.
boards, Electrify Canada's already got them, right? So there's a lot of charging networks already with credit card readers where you don't need an app, you don't need to do anything.
I
You
can
just
go,
show up and tap and pay.
I can go to a vending machine and buy a bag of chips with a credit card.
Yeah,
So it doesn't make any sense that chargers can't have them.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'll tell
We
you
talk about-
where's the
we talk
limitation.
about
So if you
chargers,
let
we
me
talk about
explain.
an app. It's a good.
Hey, get that next question.
He's trying to explain something.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, and one of the limitation that we see, and you talk about Tesla and plug and charge, you know, of course, everybody would like to have plug and charge. That's the best
Not even plug and
experience.
charge. It's
Sorry?
the new Tesla V4 chargers have a credit card reader on them. So you can just show up without plug and charge and tap and pay, right? Like you don't have to
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah, but today, yes, you see that, but it's unequal. You don't see that everywhere, and this is totally out of our control. You know, if it's going to be installed or not. But there always has to be an option, and one of the options that will work everywhere is the app or the RFID card. So what I
No, it
wanted to
doesn't work
say.
everywhere. If you don't have good data, there's some charge places that are in like cell phone hell that I was there the other day. That's a L2 location and it was in the middle of
We
nowhere.
have to grill him here.
And I couldn't get it to work because I couldn't get decent enough cell phone reception to be able to use the app to be able to get the thing to actually
Well, that's
work.
because you just use the wrong cell phone number, clearly.
Obviously, you know, but yeah.
Get a better cell phone coverage.
Okay,
Like,
but-
I'm only using TELUS, like, I don't know, it's kind of like one of the big companies, but well, apparently that particular location.
That's a good point. Whoever said, can we move on and stop harassing the ChargeHub guy? Yes.
Yeah.
Adam. yes,
Anyway,
good
but
point.
I hear all this, and I'm totally aware of all these issues. You know, ChargeHub alone cannot solve all these problems. You know, our contribution, as I said earlier, is like we're trying to help to the best we can do at this level. You know, and what we've done so far is that we're providing solution for multiple networks to be accessible with single account. Of course, it's not perfect today, but I can tell you that we're adding a lot of networks, and this is something that is wanted by the market, I would say, because we have a lot of fleets and OEMs that are looking at ways to offer their clients a way to charge more simply. And
Yeah.
I don't know the future, but today I can tell you we have a lot of traction with this. And at scale, you know, to do EV roaming may look simple for you, but it's extremely complex from the back end. And this is where we're trying to find the
I
best
think
solution.
as friendly feedback, I think if ChargeHub could implement the whole just build a credit card thing,
Yeah.
I think that would make it a very compelling use case for a lot of networks where they still use ePurse, because that, like the ePurse thing's really annoying, right? So if Flow, for example, only uses ePurse and doesn't charge, but ChargeHub does just use the credit card, I think that would be a really compelling reason to get ChargeHub, because then you don't have to deal with all these other networks where you have $10 sitting in a random account somewhere. You can just use the ChargeHub app and not worry about it, right? So,
My understanding is that the e-purse thing is generally just a way to reduce overhead credit card processing fees. But if you're already charging customers $1.25 each transaction,
then you should be able to.
you should be able to afford it.
So that would make it really compelling, yeah.
Well, so that, those are business decisions that they make, right? So, and.
Yeah, we're just giving feedback.
So I guess,
Just give them feedback, that's all.
yeah, the feedback
No,
is
it's
good
because,
because right now, one of the problems that people have is they have an account with Flow and then they have an account with Security and all that, and there's money in each one of them. If they could at least have their money in one place, that's better, right? Not ideal, it's better. But also if it would be possible, so the way Tesla does it for those who don't have unlimited charging, I don't have it on my Model Y, so it will charge you on your credit card every time you go and do a charging session, right? So very simple, very straightforward. don't need to leave any deposit anywhere, right? So that would be our ask for Christmas. So if you could give us a Christmas present, we'll take that.
Actually, a great idea to help you, win over users. Give them the ability to reclaim their balance from the other companies.
Oh, that's next level, okay.
I know you can't do that unilaterally, but I'm just saying, if you could work out a way for me to be like, hey, you already have balances in 5 charging companies.
Yeah.
You can transfer them all to ChargeHub.
That would be amazing.
Oh, yes, yes.
People are gonna be.
I would sign up, I would.
I would sign up right now.
Yeah.
Okay, so
That's great. That's really cool. Thanks for the feedback.
Yeah.
Honestly, I appreciate that. And I just want to remind you, we're still a small company. We know all these issues. We're going in a, step-by-step approach. But I can tell you so far, we've made huge improvements. Maybe you don't see like all of the technicalities behind. We have a development roadmap, and of course, we take all of this into account.
Perfect, thanks.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
And as Mark said, we should move it along the agenda now.
So thanks a lot, Simon, and sorry for the.
Yes. No, that's fine. I appreciate that, and it's an
It's-
honest discussion. I like
Yeah,
that.
so Simon, it's the passion that people have that's coming out. It's not wanting to be.
So it is you.
just, yeah,
we want you to succeed.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, perfect. No worries about that. Thank you, Emma. I'll follow up with you with the information.
yeah. And I'll
And
send
thank you for
information.
inviting me. Yeah.
Perfect, merci beaucoup.
Bonne chance.
Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about EV specific winter tires, which I think is pertinent given that we're in winter nearly. For most people, you probably have winter tires already on your car, but I was hoping just to go through a couple of things about, say, the importance of winter tires generally, which brands are making EV specific winter tires, what makes those tires EV specific maybe, and then should you buy them as sort of a last thing, which I'm not going to give you a recommendation, yes or no. I'm just going to give you information and you can do what you want with it. You may understand my bias and what I think you should do, but I'll let that come through when I do the presentation.
Mitchell, does it rhyme with Smackapolita?
I'm not sure. Raymond, if you move ahead one more slide there.
Sure.
So the importance of winter tires generally, this is sort of information that I'm sure is well understood, or at least should be well understood at this point. But the reason why winter tires are better than all seasons is a whole bunch of reasons that I've outlined below. Stopping distance is shorter. There's better traction because the winter tires have deeper sipes, which are the little sections of the tire that are slits, and those sort of grip the road better when it's cold outside, and also on snow and ice. And it's increased hydroplaning resistance in winter. There's narrower tires so that you can sort of slide through snow rather than float on top of it. You can extend your tire life for your all seasons because the all seasons wear more heavily in winter, and therefore you don't have to replace them as often. And your lower insurance costs, which is generally around a 5% savings on insurance premiums for using winter tires, at least in my case. I'm not sure if that works out for everyone, but those are some of the things that come through. The one that I like to focus on is that stopping distance figure. It's 30% shorter compared to all seasons. And heavier vehicles like electric vehicles will take longer to stop than lighter vehicles, just by nature of momentum, gravity, and friction.
Yeah, so something you don't have on the list explicitly here is normally all-season tires are summer tires. At about 7 degrees Celsius, it's cold enough that they become harder, right? And that's one of the reasons why they don't stop so fast, right?
Yeah, I didn't include the exact temperature, but yes, 7 degrees is typically what we would expect for all seasons. And if you have summer performance tires on your car, you definitely need winter tires because they are even worse in winter, and they really just turn into, I don't even know what you want to call it, but they're useless in winter. So I did a quick search of sort of the brands that I would identify as the main ones in Canada that I would recommend. There are a bunch of, say, Chinese and Korean ones that I wouldn't recommend. So these are the ones that are kind of like the leaders, I would say, in winter tire performance. So you have Continental, which apparently all their tires are EV compatible, which is interesting. And Michelin has all of their tires specifically mentioned as EV ready. I think this is one part being sort of marketing gimmicky stuff to say, if you have an EV, you should consider our tires as well. Whereas like most of their tires are probably just have a weight rating and a speed rating that would be compatible with any EV anyways. But that's what they've decided to do with their marketing. And then the three other ones there from Pirelli, Nokian, and Hankook, they have specific EV-only branded tires. So Pirelli has something called the Elect branded tire. They have a really fancy webpage that talks about how interesting their tires are and how they're different from the regular tires. I'll get into that. Nokian has a dedicated EV tire line that's basically the existing winter tire line with an EV stuck at the end. And that's available for all brands and vehicle types as well. And Hankook also has something called the Ion tire, which I don't know why everybody wants to stick I in front of everything, but they have an Ion tire, and that's that was the 2022 news release, and a lot of sort of interest in EV-specific winter tires came from that news release. And now there's articles written on EV-specific tire brands, and that's sort of why I wanted to talk about this today.
Clearly, they're internet-connected tires. I mean, obviously, that's nice.
They're not smart tires. They're not compatible with your phone. They don't start up when your car turns on to heat up and make them say grippier. Nothing about it is connected in a way. They're just tires.
So just warning that actually I'm going to move the laptop here so it's closer so people can actually see. And also just be forewarned that I put some pictures on your things, pictures of the tires in question. Okay.
No problem. I didn't have the interest to go and find specific pictures of tires because they look like tires to me. But
well, they're slightly different. You'll see when you look at them. That's
okay. Perfect. This is the Hankook Ion tire. It looks like any other winter tire. This one's specifically designed for winter because it has the main center tread, and then it's got outer treads and wider exterior treads, just kind of the pattern for most winter tires. Their Ion tire has lower rolling resistance, increased aerodynamics, and increased cornering stiffness, which is supposed to handle the extra weight of EVs. All tires have this. Low rolling resistance is a thing that you can have on EV tires. It's fine. I don't know how you increase aerodynamics when these tires are inside of a wheel well, but that's what they. Next slide. The Nokian R5 and R10 EV, so it's the R5 EV and the R10 EV. They're the same winter tire design with some additional sound deadening acoustic foam inside the inner tire liner. You'll notice that these ones you can also stud if you really want to make sure that you can handle ice. And like, again, you see here, they've got this sort of wave pattern from the center out to the edges so you can deal with hydroplaning, get snow traction. The sipes in there are those little tiny lines you can see. All the winter tires look like this. And these ones, on top of having that sound deadening material, are again stronger tire structure, reinforced tread profile, and have thinner sidewalls to improve aerodynamics and ultra low rolling resistance, which is a thing that all tires can offer. These ones are specifically included as part of the marketing for the EV specific tire.
Cool. So sorry, the one on top is the R5, the one on the bottom is the R10. It seemed like the R10 was only studded, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, the R10 I have Nokians.
Yeah.
The non-studded version has walnut shells in them to act as studs, so it's kind of cool because like in some places like Ontario, you're not allowed to have studded tires. So
well, except for my neighbor who has a winter tire that's studded, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, it's not allowed.
Sorry, I couldn't get a good picture of this one. So
a lot
fine.
of tires. A lot of
so
tires with
this is like a screenshot, I think, from the Pirelli website, right? Like they basically do that like slide through, and it transitions in some fluid way from the top view to the side view to the undercarriage. It's a wild thing that they spent money on. With these tires, they claim you can get 10% better range because of that low rolling resistance. The again enhanced sidewalls that help with lateral traction, with resulting from higher torque and weight of electric vehicles, and you reduce your noise on road by 20% with acoustic foam. Again, these are all things that these tires offer. They're potentially more luxurious than your regular winter tires. They are marketed as EV specific tires for people who buy EVs, or honestly, you could probably fit this to a Toyota Corolla and they also work well too. And then I think I've got one last slide, right, Raymond?
You have a few more.
I got two more slides, yeah. So that's the marketing side of things. And then when it comes to independent analysis and independent reporting and independent people who report on the performance of these tires in the real world, you'll get people who will sort of run these through, figure out if they're actually speaking to the same marketing language they use. And what they find generally is that this increased sort of, because you're designing things to be EV specific and offering low rolling resistance, they will actually deliver on the range improvements. So I think there was an example where they went from 267 miles of range to 278 miles of range, which is apparently a thing. But again, your mileage will vary depending on how you drive the car, the temperature outside, the traffic you're sitting in, like everything. But that increased sort of the lower rolling resistance is a problem because winter tires are designed to actually have greater rolling resistance to, grip the road. And so with having low rolling resistance, they have to work harder to grip that road, and therefore they wear more quickly, and therefore reduces the safety of those tires in those situations. And so that final point there is around the number that they identified, is that the tires that are EV specific tend to wear 20% more. But that's not necessarily because they're EV specific tires. It's just they're installed on electric vehicles in general. So if you installed an EV specific tire on a regular car, it wouldn't degrade to the same extent because it's all down to the electric vehicle itself, not the tires. Or at least like for like, it would be less wear on a non-electric vehicle.
And this is because of the weight and the torque of the EV?
That's the sort of working example of what they think it might be. And again, the wear is down to how you treat your vehicle. Like if you're doing burnouts and accelerating around corners and all of this, like I imagine your Toyota Corolla would have the same wear as an EV. So, I mean, like most of this could be addressed by driving smoother in winter, not doing hard accelerations around corners. But generally for the average person, if you were doing things like you would in a normal electric vehicle, they seem to think that it's the electric vehicle that's causing this wear, not the tires themselves.
If you want your tires to last, don't drive it like a rental.
Well, the torque the torque from the engine is the killer on the tire.
It's the killer of all
always going to be,
but it's not a specific thing. Like
it's not exactly.
Please, and floor it around because they have a Mercedes. Like they will run through tires as well. So
exactly. And then the weight, we're pretty heavy as car, so definitely.
Well, I mean, there's F-150s that weigh more than my car, so
but they also.
But it's down to like the actual tire itself is rated to a particular weight rating as well. So like if you get a regular winter tire, you can just get the weight rating to align with your vehicle, and therefore you don't have to buy the EV specific tire for your car. You can just buy the regular one with a higher weight rating, which is what I did.
Well, you should always buy a tire that's got the correct weight rating. Otherwise, it could be a problem, right? So,
yeah. Well, that's the big thing, is you want to have a tire that's rated for your vehicle, and that's not necessarily that you have to have an EV specific tire for your car, because you can get regular winter tires that are just weight rated to your vehicle, which is sort of my key takeaway from everything here. Although I have put together a slide that's sort of around, if you are buying winter tires, what should you consider? And my main point at the top is that EVs don't need EV specific tires. One thing I'd like to point out, which was mentioned in the chat by somebody, was that EV specific tires are generally more expensive because they've added these things. The main benefit you might see is the sound deadening foam, which I think is just a luxury feature that's included in all kinds of tires, not just EV tires. And extra engineering and extra R&D and extra marketing makes those tires seem like they should be more expensive, when a regular winter tire is going to be just as fine for your sort of day-to-day needs. Even though they can enhance range, I mean, if you're doing 100 kilometers a day, the small improvement on range you might get isn't going to be worth it to buy tires that are going to be 10 to 15% more per tire, at least in my opinion, unless you really value the quiet ride that they might offer you. But again, it's all up to you and personal preference, and you may not need an EV specific tire for that. And the last 4 in there are sort of things to be considered. Like I've said before, your replacement might be sooner than regular vehicles. I think that's just a general for all electric vehicles. These tires all have a wear rating. You can see exactly how they're wearing over time. You can rotate them through so that if you're rear wheel drive like my car, you can rotate the rear wheels to the front and vice versa so that you can balance out the wear across your vehicle. That additional sound deadening is there as a nice luxury, but again, not unique to EV only tires. The low rolling resistance is a concept that runs counter to the safety on winter tires in general. You want your tires to grip the road. And the sizing one size smaller on your winter tires will offer better range compared to larger EV specific winter tires, and they'll be significantly cheaper. I was looking at the difference between my 18-inch winter tires and my 19-inch options that I could have gotten. The rims were like $50 difference, so it's $50 more per rim, so that's $200 just for the rims. And then the tires themselves, I think, were an extra $30 or $40 a tire, so that's probably $350, $400 difference. Sizing smaller is generally better in winter because you can deal with ice buildup. You can have the extra space for the snow to go through your wall wells instead of accumulating. You obviously get better range from that, and then it's an overall cheaper product in the end.
Marcel has a question.
Marcel has a question.
He has his hand up.
Yeah, I'm trying to turn my microphone on.
There we go.
I remember watching some videos where they did a test of winter tires, and they determined that performance winter tires were safer than the Nordic only winter tires, because tires like the Hakkapeliittas, and I've been using them for 30 years, are better in snow, but much less good in rain.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you have any comments on that, or any insight on that?
It's all down to where you drive and how you drive. So in a situation where you're driving more frequently on snow or unplowed roads, you'll want that tire, like I said, that sort of moves through that snow instead of floats on top of it. And the Hakkapeliittas that you have and the Hakkapeliittas that I have, and it sounds like Mike's got Hakkapeliittas as well,
Yes,
are sort of designed as a way that's an all-around better tire, and it doesn't necessarily it doesn't focus specifically on, say, making it the best ice tire. It's a generally good all-around winter tire for all kinds of conditions, which is what we have in Ottawa. If you are, say, in BC and you live in the mountains and you're always driving up and down the Sea to Sky Highway, you'll want a tire that deals better with the conditions that you're driving. But for an all-around vehicle tire, you'll want, like I said, the Hakkapeliittas do a pretty good job all around. There are going to be tires that do better in, say, ice conditions, water conditions, dry conditions, snow conditions. All those kinds of things.
Mitchell,
Okay.
just want to.
Let's
And
wrap
can I
up
ask
the
one more question?
Sure.
Just as a follow-up, when you said to go to a smaller tire, did you mean to a higher aspect ratio or a narrower tire?
Less wide tires. So I went from, from 19s to 18s. So that's the diameter of the tire. But the same outside diameter. Well, the sidewalls are wide. You get more sidewall.
Just more sidewall. Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Last question here.
Yeah, Mitchell. So two things to also consider. I mean, one is the there's not necessarily a direct trade-off between snow traction and rolling resistance. I mean, tread pattern is part of rolling resistance, but the other thing, which was even mentioned in some of these marketing materials, was the sidewall. Because when you're driving, rolling resistance actually comes from the deformation of the tire, because you have to keep deforming it so that the contact patch gets put onto the ground, which is basically dictated by your weight and your air pressure. So I actually found the marketing materials a little confusing because they were claiming that their improving cornering stiffness, but simultaneously reducing rolling resistance and
Yeah.
making the sidewalls thinner. I'm like, how can they be doing all those things at once? I don't know. This seems really dubious.
Two.
But anyway, the other thing to remember for people, is that rolling resistance mostly affects your city range. On the highway, you know, your efficiency is dominated by aerodynamics. So, when we're talking about EV range, we're mostly concerned about the highway range because around the city, you know, you're not driving as far and your efficiency is already higher. So on the highway, getting stickier winter tires, you know, won't matter as much because it's, again, mostly going to be up to aerodynamics at that point. So, you know, I would say, you know, don't worry too much about the rolling resistance efficiency hit, you know, if it comes with a steeper price increase or any other compromises that you don't want.
Okay, so let's move ahead because we have a lot of stuff to cover. So it's already 9 o'clock. So thanks a lot, Mitchell. So the other, so this is my part actually. So the AGM, January 29th, we have the AGM coming up, and like every year, what we'll be doing is reviewing the financials and then doing board elections. Okay, so I didn't hear from Rob yet whether he's staying on or not.
I think you said he wasn't.
But Darren, I haven't had official confirmation, but Darren is stepping away. He's been our faithful secretary for I think it's 10 years or something crazy like that. So thanks a lot, Darren. Darren will be doing the secretary duties for the AGM also, but that will be his last meeting as the secretary. So of course he'll be more than welcome to join the meetings like he has for years and years. So you see the other people there that are, so Sam, Mike, and Mitchell has said that they want to stay on. Myself, Ryan, and Craig, we're on our second year. We'll be on our second year of 2 years. Okay. So that's for that. So Electromobility Canada Conference. I'm going to make this fast. I was expecting to make it because I know that there's a lot of news to go through, right? So in terms of highlights, it was a 3-day conference in Edmonton, pretty interesting. I have some pictures of electric buses and all that they had. They had an electric 60-foot articulated bus, which was from New Flyer Industries, which was really cool. There were about 300 participants. It was sold out. Industry people, government, and a few owners groups were there. Okay, so next year it's in Halifax, so I'm going to drive there. So if someone wants to come along, you'll be more than welcome. Okay. One of the things that was interesting is François-Philippe Champagne was there. He's a minister of industry, with innovation, science, and industry. This guy is hilarious, but this guy is the guy who actually was able to bring all of the battery plants and all that to Canada, and it's truly because of him, his personality, that he did that. Anyways, I could talk about it for a while, but I will skip in the interest of time. So this is a sample of the agenda, right? So optimizing EV charging experience in Canada, etc. So the last one there is zero emission public transit, right? There's still people talking about hydrogen, but in practice, you don't see hydrogen buses anywhere. You see electric buses. There are some places like Edmonton that they're going to try hydrogen, but good luck. So anyways, so there's a number of different topics that they go through. It was very interesting. Lots of really interesting people. One thing I wanted to focus on is NRCan did a what they call an end of route charging study, and what they're saying in their study is that, well, they wanted to look as to whether you should charge in depot versus charging also on the street. Okay, and they're talking about end of route. So at the end of the run, where they stop for a certain amount of time, they would be charging there, right? So without going through all of the details, I think the study is misguided, and I shall just go back here, that doesn't take into account the electricity charges, which is really important, because if you're charging on the road at the end of the run, you may be charging during peak times, adding to the peak problem and paying a lot more for electricity, right? And the first part there is they didn't consider the cost of connecting these stations to the grid, which, for those who know anything about the grid, that's probably the most expensive part. Okay. So anyways, back to this thing here. When you look at it, there's a lot of numbers that are really interesting, and you look at the route blocks, for those who know OC Transpo and other transit agencies, this is the way they organize their runs. So 965 there, okay? So just keep it that number in mind. So what they did is they looked at different scenarios, and the yellow line you see in the graph at the top there, that's the current range of the buses that they have and buses that are commercially available, okay? The gray line is the hypothetical longer range bus that would have a bigger battery and all that, right? So if you look at the graph, it's pretty hard for you guys over there to see it, but you see that where the red line crosses the yellow line, that's over 90%. Okay, so that means that currently the current buses that OC Transpo has, they could do 95% of the routes and the blocks that are defined by OC Transpo. Okay, we're not far from having them all done, right? The other thing too is that they don't consider doing charging in depot during the day. And actually, they talk about how much time the OC Transpo buses stay at quote unquote end of line, but in fact, they're not at end of line, they're back at the bus barn and they could be charging there. Okay, and if they do that, then they'll have more range and they'll be able to do longer runs if you want to. But you know, if you think about this, the first 50 or so % of buses here, they're doing 100 kilometers in a day, right? It's not much, right? So there should be spare capacity in those batteries. They could use it to runs later in the day and all that. And I know the software they have allows them to do a lot of stuff and take into account the bus type and all that to schedule which bus is used for what, okay? So not to get into too many details again, but route block 1 there, 404 kilometers. I think that's the longest block that they have. Okay, so if you think about that, just think about it a bit. Average transit bus runs somewhere, depending on the routes and depending on the transit agency, somewhere between 12 to 20 or so kilometers an hour on average, okay? So 404 kilometers, that's 20 hours of driving. That's a lot, right, for a transit bus. Now, the 95 route and routes like that were exceptions, but we don't have those anymore, right? We have the LRT that's doing those shorter. They're all shorter routes, right? And so anyways, you know, again, don't want to go through all the details here, but here, to me, they make some assumptions that are wrong. If you look at the first column, it's pretty hard to describe it in a few words, but the orange part here is they say that if you're charging only in depot, you're going to have to deploy 450 kilowatt chargers. And they're also suggesting here that they would deploy a number of different types of chargers, or different powers. So you have 60 here, 100, 150, and 450. Okay, so if you think about the operations at OC Transpo, you don't want to have to say to the driver, go put the bus that you use today on this route to this particular size of charger, right? You want the same thing everywhere. And from what I know of OC Transpo, they're putting 150 kilowatt chargers everywhere. And the way it'll work is the buses will park under a pantograph, and it'll charge sometime overnight. There'll be some perhaps, you know, BluWave AI stuff that will control it, but they won't be moving the buses. That's another thing. Moving buses is a pain in the butt, right? So they don't want to move buses. But bottom line is, if you rerun the numbers with what I think is more accurate, charging in the depot is better, especially if you consider things again like the price of electricity, which is a lot cheaper overnight. Okay. And here I'll skip this one here. So they have a number of conclusions there. The first one is that they could charging on route can significantly extend the range. Okay. So anyway, so you'll be able to read them when we post this on our website. But you know, the interesting stuff that they discuss, interesting options, but
Cost-effective way. Like the bottom line.
Well, they're saying it can be a cost-effective way. Well, is it or is it not, right? So, and again, if I take my opinion and based on what I know, but I don't know OC Transpo like 100%, right? But well, from what I know, OC Transpo would be more expensive to charge than on the road, right?
If they would be there already and available.
When you say end of road, do you mean like
At
middle of nowhere or just like at Hardin Station?
Like at our unit,
Yes.
they do like.
That's another option. You should be able to put power there.
Oh, they could,
Urban has
but if you look at the number and all that, the cost and all that, it doesn't make sense. And you'd be using electricity
At the wrong time
often
of day
during
as well.
peak times instead of at night, right? So it'd be dirtier electricity,
You know,
right?
Counterpoint though, is that if they're charging away from the depot,
Yeah.
then ostensibly that should reduce the demand on the depot, so the depot
Yeah.
doesn't have to be sized. So they'll take some money there, and the depot's probably gonna require some battery buffering, and you could
Yeah.
instead allocate some of those batteries to be at her.
Yeah,
So it would open up things like having a bus just run 24 hours a day, never go back to depot, just change out drivers, right?
yeah, so one of the things they say is that the on-road charging would mean that some buses would never have to charge in depot.
Right, which could be a benefit. It depends on how much value a transit sees in that.
But from the numbers I've seen and all that, I think it's better to charge it in the depot, simpler. Aligning the bus under the pantograph in the middle of the winter when there's ice and snow and all this, right?
I don't know if that's fair.
It is, no, some other places they've reported that it was a problem, okay? So anyways, bottom line is that's what they discussed, interesting stuff. So these are the type of presentations that we'll have.
It's time for the news.
So if you're interested next year,
I'm gonna be lazy to sit here because there's like 4 people. All right, so I'm gonna be quick. And the news is now. So I'm gonna start off with some interesting EVs that members have seen in the wild. So Henry is actually here and he managed to bag a Bright Drop delivery van on his street, which was super cool. And then Steven Silver saw a electric semi charging a Coventry. So there's a bunch of pictures there. Those are both on the Facebook group if you guys want to go check them out. So that's pretty cool. Speaking of Bright Drop, so GM is absorbing Bright Drop into their commercial unit. They were running Bright Drop as a sort of like a startup within GM. It came out of their innovation lab. And so they had a lot more freedom and flexibility to sort of push the boundaries, do things that are non-traditional GM. But now that they're going to start being a real company, they've reabsorbed them into the mothership to reduce costs and provide fleet customers with a one size, like a
one-stop shop
kind of thing. Zevo production, they're committed to scaling Zevo production. Zevo is the vehicle that they're making. However, Zevo 400 and 600 production has currently paused due to battery shortages. But they expect that production to resume in the spring as the Cami-based battery plant comes online here in Ontario. So there haven't been any Bright Drops being made. Can everybody mute themselves, please? Because I'm hearing stuff.
So you may have heard that Ford and GM have both figured out that the demand is slow for EVs, okay? GM.
I'm gonna talk about that in a second.
Hey, you're gonna talk about it? Okay.
Slow demand, in a sense? Yeah.
Okay, we'll talk about it then. Okay, sorry.
All right, so Electrify Canada has now entered Saskatchewan. So they're slowly building across the country. This is a new charger they put in Saskatchewan. So they've built 6 new 350 kilowatt charging stalls. Those are the new generation with solar canopies, which is super duper cool. Hopefully we'll see that at Carlingwood. There's the Canadian Tire, the enormous Canadian Tire they built on Carlingwood is getting Electrify Canada station. And I assume it'll look very similar to what you see in the picture here. So far, this is the biggest rollout of their next gen chargers, according to them. They're located in Victoria Square Shopping Center, if you have the inkling to go to Saskatchewan.
In the middle of winter.
And they have plug and charge. So if your car supports plug and charge, then you can just roll up and plug in. So that's pretty neat. All right, large scale carbon capture is an illusion, according to the International Energy Agency. So when you hear those ads on the radio about how the tar sands are doing carbon capture because they care about climate change just like you, yeah, even the International Energy Agency is calling bullshit on that.
And they tend to slant heavily towards incumbent industry, so
Yes,
yeah.
if they're even saying that.
So if IEA is saying that, then you can take it to the bank. The carbon capture is BS.
No, it's not that it doesn't work, but it doesn't work well, doesn't capture all the
The technology exists and can work. However, basically the IEA pointed out that carbon capture cannot be used by the fossil fuel industry to maintain the status quo, which is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
If all the national energy and climate goals are reached as current, so we're not even talking about the below 1.5 or whatever, if the current goals were to be reached, then the valuations of oil and gas companies would fall by 25% from their $6 trillion valuation right now. And in order to meet the carbon capture goals that we already have in legislation, they would have to capture 32 billion tons of CO2 by 2050, including 23 billion tons via direct air capture, and would need more electricity than the entire world currently produces. Right, this is why it's not viable. It's because in order to make it work, you need to basically create another Earth worth of electricity, and then some.
So they're talking about direct air or source or both?
They're both. They would say that in order to meet the current goals, not only would they have to do 32 billion tons of source, but they'd also have to actually actively pull it out of the air as well, which is just completely ridiculous. So it's not going to happen. So shut up, oil sands. We see your lies. Toyota continues, speaking of lies, Toyota is continuing its greenwashing despite its change in leadership. So we were all excited earlier in the year because Akito Toyoda was getting the boot as CEO, and he was going to be replaced with a more EV-friendly Kohei Sato as CEO. However, since Kohei Sato took over, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but that's just how it's spelled. They haven't really changed. They're sort of up to the same old tricks. And they've actually gone a step farther. They are now badging their hybrids as HEVs in order to confuse people into thinking that, well, it has EV in the name, so it must be good. When really it's just a conventional normal hybrid you don't plug in, right?
It's not even a plug-in?
Not even a plug-in. No, it's just it's a hybrid electric vehicle. So it's self-charging hybrid nonsense, right?
Self-charging.
So they continue to focus on distant nonsense. People keep commenting, and it covers up my words here. So what they're doing right now is they have a two-part strategy where they want to shift the conversation, is a quote from them, from EVs to anything else. So that includes non-plug-in hybrids, or HEVs as they like to call them. The other thing they want to do is, for those who are hell-bent on buying an EV, they want to focus on an unrealistic distant technology, solid state, so that you postpone your EV purchase and buy something that burns stuff still. And so this is their strategy. It's a two-part strategy. They're publicly talking about this, right? And so like when we talk about how the oil and gas and legacy auto are conspiring against EVs and it's like a conspiracy, like this is legitimately what we're talking about. They're just talking about it like out in the open. So there you go. So Toyota hasn't really changed. The UAW wins non-union, or helps the UAW wins, help non-union workers too. So VW has just announced that it will raise factory worker pay for its non-unionized Chattanooga, Tennessee factory, right? The reason they built in Tennessee is because of no union. But now that the UAW has won such huge wins, huge pay raises, VW has to raise wages on its non-union workers in order to compete. So they rose their wages by 11%. The UAW actually won 25% raises for the big three automakers for its shops. So Hyundai and Toyota and Honda are also raising wages for their non-union workers in Tennessee. And I think it's southern US. Hyundai's announced a 25% raise, so they're basically matching what the UAW is giving their workers. And Honda's raising it by 11%, with Toyota being the cheapest, stingiest jerks, and only raising pay by 9.2%. So not only will Toyota go out of business because they don't produce any EVs, but they won't be able to find anybody to build them because they're not paying enough. But anyway, this is unions help non-union people too, right? So when you hear a company complaining about unions making things expensive, yeah. Nissan confirms 3 new EVs and its next gigafactory. So they've just announced 2 new EV crossovers, which is all the rage, and a new version of the Leaf, which is pictured below. Oh, cool. So this is probably, it's a concept vehicle still, but it's probably what the Leaf will look like.
An actual Nissan concept image or something?
It is. No, it's an actual Nissan concept image from their day that they had a big announcement in the UK. So all the 3 vehicles will be produced in the UK in Sunderland. They're gonna build a brand new gigafactory for these EVs. The other 2 are gonna be replacing the Qashqai and the Juke. Their only competitive EV offering at the moment is the Aria. We're not gonna talk about the Leaf because friends don't let friends buy new Leafs. But when the new Leaf comes out, presumably it will be on a platform similar to the Aria, so it'll be liquid cooled and have all the modern amenities that you would expect from a modern EV that isn't designed in the 2010s.
So if they build it in the UK, I wonder if we're gonna see it here.
Yeah, it'll be, remains to be seen. I know they do build Leafs in the US, so we'll see if they do that too. But for now, things are looking like if they continue to sell the Leaf, presumably it'll be in the existing markets, and that's hopefully what we get. So there you go.
No mirrors.
There's no mirrors.
Oh,
Oh, that's a concept. So they wouldn't have mirrors or wipers or anything, right? But that's the gist of what it'll look like. Theoretically. Yeah, it looks okay. It's not a hatchback anymore. It looks like it's a sedan of some sort. Kia is doing the concept thing as well. They're showing off the EV3 and EV4 concepts. The pictures are sort of backwards there. So the EV3 is the boxy little SUV thing, which is very cute. And I think looks like it's going to be poised to replace the Nero.
And Soul, I would think.
And maybe the Soul too, who knows? Because those are not, this is going to be on the new, it's not EGMP, it's actually the next generation of EGMP platform. The EV4 is a sedan, and this is the concept. So like it'll look similar to this, but not exactly, right? That's how concepts roll. These were shown in sheet metal at the LA Auto Show this month. So they have actual physical concepts of these.
And they look like that.
And they look like these pictures. Yeah, this is exactly what they look like. So the vehicles are expected to hit the market roughly by 2026, and that is just a guess from the media because based on how the EV9 and 6 went and sort of projecting a timeline from concept to real. Now with the EV9, I mean, or the EV6, the concept and the real car look pretty much the same. So you can expect Kia to sort of probably make them look like this. So there you go. Speaking of Hyundai Kia, we'll stick with them. So Hyundai is building a new $1.5 billion plant in Ulsan, where they currently have a huge manufacturing facility, so that they can build another 200,000 more EVs per year. The building's going to be a new dedicated EV plant. It's going to just add to its existing facility. This is because they've seen so much demand. Construction is set to begin any day now. It's going to come online by 2025 with mass production starting on a Genesis SUV in 2026. They are going to launch 11 new EVs by 2030. And that includes 3 sedans, 6 SUVs, and a light commercial vehicle of some sort. So they are not done with EVs. They are just getting started. And to that end, both Hyundai and Kia are seeing strong EV demand despite rivals' concerns, and the rivals being the North American car companies that are selling or trying to sell $100,000 vehicles. So while the North American brands are seeing a cooling of the market, as they're calling it, and cutting back production and all that jazz, Hyundai and Kia are very bullish and doing the opposite. Their executives told Reuters that they are seeing strong demand for electric vehicles in the US, and they're pointing to a doubling of EV sales year over year so far. Strong demand has put Hyundai in second place behind only Tesla in the US, despite not even qualifying for the rebate. So
they qualify if it's a lease?
They qualify if it's a lease, but for sale they don't. So they're not even fully qualifying for the EV, the $7,500 rebate thing. And they're like in second place now behind Tesla.
Yeah.
Right.
So I've been looking at the numbers.
Price.
I was looking at the numbers on the weekend for another reason, but if you look at GM, your thing about bread drop confirms what I was thinking. There's a shortage of
that's issues, yeah.
So GM said that they're seeing a cooling of demand, so they slowed down the introduction of cars if they have big lineups waiting for them, right? It's not because it's a cooling of demand, it's because they can't
make enough cars,
right? So, but they're exactly, and Ford, I think, is a similar situation, although, yeah.
Well, I mean, Ford so there are if you read like normal automotive journalism that's not EV stuff, you will notice that none of the vehicles that are $100,000 are selling right now, probably because of high interest rates. So all of the like luxury pickup truck people are complaining that like nobody's buying pickup trucks anymore Because, and they're like these $100,000 pickups are just sitting on lots all over the US and they're building up inventory and it's a horror show. So it's not an EV problem. It's a people don't want $100,000 EV problem, right? And it's not even that $100,000 vehicle. And it's because the economy's not doing super well for a lot of people and interest rates are high and you're not going to finance 100K on a stupid truck, regardless of whether it's an EV or not. So when you hear people talking about demand cooling, that's the demand. Hyundai, Kia don't sell $100,000 cars, and that's why they are very bullish. Because
So remember the curve that shows that as EV sales go up, ICE sales go down, right?
yeah, and that too, that also applies, but it's more the price point at this point.
Because I was
And
looking.
you notice a lot of the brands that are having trouble selling are all the high end stuff. So we're talking like Audi is having issues with the e-tron sales, and the Lyric isn't selling really well. All of these vehicles are 100,000 plus cars.
But the Lyric, they can't make enough.
And they can't even make enough lyrics anyway, but yeah, anyway, we'll carry on. So VW actually, this is an affordable VW, it's the ID3. And they are blaming a low demand for the ID3 in Europe. So they're cutting one of the shifts that makes the ID3. And it's because like low market demand, but it's like you didn't bring any ID3s to, like they're only selling them in Europe and there's huge demand over on this side of the ocean. So Volkswagen, if you're watching, we've been asking for this for 6 years now. Bring us the damn ID3, right? You can sell them here and put that factory back on a 3-shift rotation. They're also having issues producing ID4s and 5s and Q4 e-trons and Q4 Sportbacks. But that's not because of demand. That is because they can't get the motors right now for those vehicles in Europe. So they're still being produced in the US, but in Europe, they don't have the motors. And so they have to halt demand or halt production a few times. So because of all these halts, the factory that in Zwickau that can currently produce 6 models or 330,000 units a year is only producing 2 models and about 200,000 units a year. So Volkswagen's having issues, but some of them are their own doing.
But again, they're blaming it on soft demand.
They're blaming it on demand, but really it's their mismanagement of everything. Pricing, according to a new study from S&P, is still the biggest barrier to EV buyers in a news release that will shock absolutely no one. Range anxiety and charging concerns have been pushed down the list of EV adoption worries, so that's probably good news. 67% of respondents were open to getting an EV, which is down from 71 last year and 86 in 2021. I'm suspecting maybe gas prices have something to do with that.
I think it's disinformation also.
But there's also been a huge disinformation campaign by the oil industry as they're starting to notice a hit on their bottom line as demand drops across the board for gas. So they've started pushing hard to put out BS, which you can hear on the radio every day if you turn into live 88.5. 46% of respondents were concerned about charging times, and 44% were concerned about availability. So anyway, interesting report. EV registrations in Europe surpassed diesel for the first time in history. Diesel used to be the most common fuel for passenger vehicles in Europe by like more than half of the vehicles sold in Europe were diesels. At one point, and then Dieselgate happened. So thank you, Volkswagen, for that. And now, according to the European Automobile Manufacturers Association, EVs are now the 3rd most popular type behind gas and hybrid, right? Which is gas. So there you go. EVs now EVs are more than diesel's 13.9% market share. So it went from 50% to 13% market share for diesel. Which means still people are buying diesels for some reason, but whatever. EVs are now surpassing that. It's not going to turn back. Nobody's going to start making more diesels. So it's blue skies from now on. The last BMW ICE engine was made in Munich. So Germany now, well, BMW in Germany no longer produces any ICE engines. It's EVs or bust. The plant in Munich dates back to 1922. It employs 8,000 people and it has made its last ever internal combustion engine. It was a V8 engine. And they still produce ICE vehicles in that factory. However, they don't produce ICE engines. Those engines come from the UK and Austria. They also make the i4 in that factory as well. So no more, like BMW no longer makes ICE engines in Germany. And if anybody knows anything about BMW, so the logo of BMW is actually a propeller. And the reason it's a propeller is because they made ice engines for like race cars, because they needed to make airplane engines low key during the whole the after World War I thing. And so they were making airplane engines, putting them in race cars to maintain that like skill set. And so like their heritage is in ice engines, right? And they made some of the best ice engines in World War II, and now they don't make any. So that's a big deal. In Germany anyway. All right, so we talked a little bit about this last year, or last month, sorry. But this is the market share of sales of EVs per car maker, per legacy automaker. So obviously Tesla and Lucid aren't there because they're 100%. What's interesting is that of the 18 brands, Mercedes led the pack with 14.1% of their total vehicle sales being BEV or electric. Mazda, surprisingly, was 0% because they have the objectively worst EV on the market. Honda did not sell any EVs in North America, so didn't even qualify. But you can look for your favorite brand there and see how they are doing. Keeping in mind that EV sales in North America in general are around 10% right now of market share. So there you go.
Now, with that number, was that, in order to qualify, was that 100% EV? So like the Prius doesn't qualify?
Doesn't count.
Doesn't count?
No.
Okay, just
Those are BEVs.
Toyota is 0.5% or something. That would probably be the few.
Yeah, Toyota, that's their biz forks. They're 0.5%, and that's their biz forks.
Yes, okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah. And Lexus is surprisingly higher at 1.1, probably. I don't even know what the Lexus EV is.
It's another.
It's a biz forks iteration, I'm sure.
Yeah,
But for
the same
money.
car.
Yeah,
Subaru, Toyota, and Lexus is selling exactly the same car, right? No, the only reason you see a bigger percentage is because the total sales the company is doing.
Yeah, because their total sales
right?
are lower. That makes sense.
But it's the same car being sold against the 3 brand.
Yeah, it's 3 badge. Yeah. All right, so Atlanta. This is a new V4 supercharger installation in Atlanta. They put in 16 V4 stalls. V4s are cool. They're starting to show up more and more in the US. They are equipped with an improved design, so they have an integrated Magic Dock so that you can charge non-Teslas. They have a digital credit card reader and a display so that you can just pay there without having to deal with any apps or whatever. You just tap your card. They feature a 10-foot cable, which is longer than the current one. It supports up to 1,000 volts at 615 amps. Which is 615 kilowatts apparently. And but for now, the chargers are actually limited to V3 speeds because the cabinets that back them on the back end are only the V3 units. But in the future, when they get upgraded to V4 power units, then they'll go up to the full 615 kilowatts. I don't know how that. Oh yeah, I guess that math works. Like 615 times 1,000 volts. So there you go. These are beasts, and Ioniq 5s will charge like monsters on these bad boys when we get them. So I'm very excited for this, personally. I did the next slide. Okay, so at certain supercharging locations, congestion fees will replace idle fees. So if you're in the Tesla, we're in the Tesla corner, by the way, in case anybody didn't notice that. So Tesla's rolling out congestion fees now at really busy superchargers in the US, so you can probably expect them to show up in Canada at some point. And these are replacing the existing idle fees. The congestion fee will bill drivers $1 per minute once the vehicle state of charge reaches 90%, regardless of whether the car is charging or not. So if your car hits 90%, you're going to get dinged $1 a minute from that point on.
Regardless of
whether it's actively charging or idle.
Regardless whether the other stations are busy, right?
No, there is some logic there.
Because the current one, you get charged only if there's more than 50% of the charge.
Yeah, so the current idle fee being replaced is 50 cents per minute once the vehicle has stopped charging, if there's congestion at the charger. Yeah. So yeah, this is still in the works, but they are introducing it now. So look for that if you're a Tesla owner and go to a super busy supercharger. Plan your trips accordingly. They also might be preparing a paywall for heated seats. So there's a Tesla hacker. He's apparently very well known in Tesla circles.
Green the only, yes.
Green the only. Okay, so Craig knows him. So there you go. His findings in the logic. So he got his hands on the software and took it apart, and embedded in the software is something that they can implement for the first time. It would be you would have to pay to activate heated front seats and wipers. So that might be coming to Canada at some point, given that we need heated seats and wipers. So this might be good news, it might be bad news. Hopefully they don't pull a BMW and put it as a subscription service, because that would be ridiculous. But what it could mean is that they're going to come out with a cheaper base model Tesla, where you can not pay for heated seats and get a cheaper car, and then at some point you can unlock that later. Hopefully that's how they go. Probably they've done that in the past with other stuff. If they do the subscription thing, though, you guys should raise your pitchforks and pick on Elon's rocket ship.
I think it's a silly thing to even have an option. It's not like they're an expensive feature.
Yeah.
You have to coil a wire under your seat.
I mean, they don't really have interiors like that, so you gotta charge for something. That's a dig at Raymond. And one last, or this might not be the last, I don't know. One more bit of negative Tesla news, because everyone thinks I rag on Tesla so much. But a judge has found reasonable evidence that Tesla and Elon Musk knew that autopilot was defective and yet still let it go on the road. So what happened was there was a lawsuit in a fatal crash. This is from a lawsuit in a fatal crash involving a Model 3 north of Miami, where the driver was killed because the car auto drove into an 18-wheeler's trailer that was crossing the traffic. And apparently Tesla has admitted that they knew of a problem where autopilot did not detect cross traffic. And so he's found them basically liable for the dude's death. Right. And basically the judge called a 2016 promotional video from Tesla. It says Tesla self-driving should have had a disclaimer, because the video itself showed all the driver's only here for regulatory purposes. He doesn't do anything, right? It's full self-driving. And what the judge basically was saying is that you're false advertising, and you should have had a disclaimer saying that, this is an aspirational technology, that don't expect it to behave this way. But since they didn't do that, and somebody treated it as if he could fall asleep in the car and got killed by autopilot, so that's not a good look for Tesla. So watch this space.
That was
We're going
4
to
years
the
ago.
table.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
So,
Cybertruck has been spotted in Quebec City and Montreal. So these are pictures from the internet. Well, a picture from the internet. There's more on our Facebook group, apparently. Somebody was posting stuff. So there you go. It's unclear whether this is like a test vehicle from Tesla doing like cold weather stuff, or whether this is actually like delivered to some guy in Montreal. But it's been seen all over Montreal. It actually got a speeding ticket from a camera in Montreal. A speed camera bagged him because he was going too fast. So yeah, there you go. There's a Cybertruck in the wild. Drive to Montreal, get some donuts, go check out the Cybertruck. You can find them. And that is it for the news.
Okay, so let's go very fast through the events. There weren't very many last month, right? It's the Kilowatts and Coffee. But there was also the volunteer appreciation event on November 6th. That was a lot of fun. In terms of upcoming events, we do have 3 events booked for, one is tentative, 2 are firm for next year. So if things come up, if you guys know of other events that we'd like to do, let's start, accumulating that. So what are we doing for the rest of the year? We're doing essentially Kilowatts and Coffee, right? So every week in December, we're alternating from east to west, right? Plaza Land and Maryville Road. And same thing in January, we're alternating one to the other, okay?
Yeah, it's because our place downtown charges for parking now. So we're going to try Plaster Orleans that has a heated garage, and we're just going to go to the Starbucks. And then the second guy up on Maryville, lots of parking. He's got room inside. He loves having us. So
I don't think Orleans is heated though.
it's warm in there.
It's warmer than. Although last time we were able to fit everyone at one table.
No, so we do separate tables. It's fine.
So anyways, that's pretty well it. Again, membership, if you're not a member, I encourage you to sign up. And I don't remember how many we have there.
We're up in the 80s now.
Yeah, so if you're interested, and Mike will be putting all the
I'm working on it.
videos up there soon. I think most of the slides from the previous meetings are there right now, so so Mike.
Yeah, so if you're watching us on YouTube, this is where your video ends. We are doing a roundtable discussion if you're here live, so stick around for that. But thanks for watching, and we will see you next month.